Great, thank you all. I've just started the recording session. The intention of this is only a relatively brief. Of course, we're happy to take questions at the end and do any follow-ups we need to. But we're sort of pretty excited. I'm going to hand over to Lucia. And Lucia, do you want me to share my screen, or do you want to share it? How did you want to do it?
Oh, yeah, you can share it.
Okay, I'll share my screen then, and I'll hand over to Lucia.
Great, thank you very much. So I'll just wait a couple of minutes.
Lucia, just as that
Yes.
is loading up,
Yes.
Nicole, can we ask you to do acknowledgement to country, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on here today, the Gomeroi people of the Gamilaroi Nation. And as we're meeting across all different nations today, it would be great to for you all to pay some respect and acknowledge traditional owners of country that you're all on today.
Thank you,
So
Nicole.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. Just quickly, I can do that for the skills point here today. So I'd like to acknowledge elders past and present, and the land that we're meeting on today is the Awabakal land. Thanks, Nicole.
I'd just like to acknowledge elders past and present as well for Gumbaynggirr people here at Coffs Harbour on the land where I am today.
And on behalf of Bankstown and John and myself, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional landowners and custodians and the Darug people here at Bankstown.
Okay, over to you, Lucia, to
Great. Thank you very much. Yes, so thank you for attending the information session. As we see, this is just to give you some information on how the assessments will work and where to find them and to start using them. So as of Monday, the 27th, these will be available to use, and this is where we are from. So what we're going to cover today is the assessment templates that I'm sure you have seen already and reviewed and provided feedback. So I appreciate the feedback that you have supplied. Where to find the assessment templates moving forward, how to save them, where to store your final, and also the naming conventions around the different templates, which we have been working on as well over the last couple of weeks, and also what to be aware of because there is data involved, and we're going to sort of go through some of those sessions as well. So over to the next slide. Right. So you'll see that on the right-hand side, you'll be aware of the 5 rounds of assessment templates that we sent out for feedback, and we have completed everything now, and we're just finalising the last part. So all of the templates have now gone through accessibility, except for the case study, because that's what we're still finalising. Just to give you a little bit of information on the template. So the support documents, you'll see that there is one for each of the assessment templates, and the support document was developed to provide some guidance, some hints and tips on how to complete the assessment. Well, we found that there was a little bit of confusion as to what to put in where and possible, how to write it and so forth. So we provided some guidance around that to support the assessment document. So each of them will have a support document. There's an assessment for the student, and there's an assessment which is the marking guide for the teacher and assessor to be able to complete with their model answers, sample answers, or responses that are required for each of them, which will assist in the marking process and obviously forming judgment in awarding competency or not yet competent. So the 2 types of templates that we use are those ones, and they're in Word document. So they are the very manual Word document process, but what we've also done is that we've incorporated with the data, and Dave will cover off on this. So the Word documents that you see here will be sitting in the learning bank, and they will be under, and we'll cover that as we go through the slides, but under the New South Wales TAFE templates, and they will all be sitting there for you to access, but you could also access them through the Data website. So over to the next page. Dave? Up to you.
Yeah, yes, thank you. If it's okay, we'll keep on rolling unless there's a really pressing question until the end, if that's okay. We don't put half hour aside. Yeah, so as Lucia mentioned, the two versions of the assessment templates will be available either from the Learning Bank collection or data. You may be aware of that. I think all skills points are now, but if you aren't, we will also on the release of the assessment templates be providing more information around the Learning Bank collection and data, access to data. But you may well already be using data. The primary difference, of course, is that the Word documents are a manual, copy and paste TGA data type process. And the data docs served out the data web service will automate that process. I'll just mention, as well as the assessment templates, you would also be aware, no doubt, that the master TAS is also can be accessed from data, the web service, and that will also pre-populate the master TAS document using that data web site as well. I probably don't need to talk any more about that until the end. And just the other important thing is, please, when you're using either the Learning Bank or data, use either the Chrome browser or Safari. Internet Explorer, there are bugs in both systems within Internet Explorer. You may be aware that Internet Explorer is no longer supported by Microsoft. Technically, they aren't updating it, so it has some issues with newer services. I'll go to the next slide and hand over to John now.
Thanks, Dave. As far as the Learning Bank is concerned, I think all of the skills points are currently following a process and work instructions for developing the courses from the Project 83 site. Nothing's changed in that respect. If you just keep on going with that particular procedure, everything should already have a naming convention, and all of those things should already have been decided. And if we go on to the next slide, this is the section that's probably the most important for us here at the Learning Bank, which is to ensure that before any resources are sent to us for submitting to the Learning Bank, that the quality assurance and approval process has been completed. We're not able to put anything up or make it live onto the Learning Bank until that process has been completed. And if you have a look in the unit metadata form, what I'd ask is that each time you submit resources that you download a new version of that form from the Project 83 site. It's just to ensure that you're using the latest version of the form, and any of the programming that we do in the background of that form to make our data entry process easier is up to the most current. Otherwise, we're copying and pasting data out of different forms to try and get it to into the procedure that we're using at the moment. The other thing that I would ask is that when you do submit any resources to us at the Learning Bank, that you use the Learning Bank @tfnsw.edu.au address. And the guidelines and everything else for the naming conventions for all of your resources are currently in that Project 83 site as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Just one brief comment. As it was mentioned on the last slide, the naming conventions, guidelines for training product naming conventions, have been developed in consultation with the Learning Bank and for example, the TAS, Joni and Marcus, and us, the assessment designers. So we've got a consistency across all of the product now. The idea is that the naming conventions are applicable to all learning resources, assessment resources, etc. So there is a consistency there now. I'll just talk briefly about what to be aware of. The data web service, the information, the automation of the TGA data into the Word documents is done through a web service, but the one caveat is please make sure that you always check the documents once you've done that process. There are some data errors within the TGA database. Some of you would be aware of that. That's especially some of the older units that are usually more than 4 or 5 years old, will often have problems within the data from the TGA database. So that can cause errors in the Word documents when they come out. So just as a practice, by the way, we're working on resolving that as we find out these units. There's work done in the background to try and resolve the issues. But just always as a practice, make sure that you just briefly check against the unit of competency in TGA that the data is correct. What we've found is foundation skills is a new functionality that we've just built into the automated documents. And Lucia's already identified a couple of units as part of that process that there were problems with the foundation skills. So just particularly check to make sure that the foundation skills have come across correctly. We'll give you these slides, of course, but you can log any issues that you find using the Data Web Service through the Remedy, the DeskNow, through the DeskNow product. We'll send you the links and the details on that. But as you find things, we'll be then working with the developers to look at prioritizing, fixes and stuff as we work through it. Just the one, Alison, you might talk. Would you mind talking about the versions? Is that okay? Or I can, if you wanted to, but would you mind speaking to that?
Yep, no, that's fine. Just to give you the heads up on the different versions. So currently, as you know, on the intranet under compliance templates, it's version 2, and the ones that Dave, Lucia and myself have been working on are version 3. When you're developing a suite of tools, just be mindful that we can't chop and change. So it either needs to be completely version 2 or completely version 3, and that's simply because we have merged some of those documents in version 3, and it's around consistency and compliance. So yeah, just to give you the heads up on that. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Alison. So I'll just go. Yeah, okay. So we're sort of to the end of the presentation now. So we're happy, of course, to answer any questions you had around all of that.
Yeah, just a quick question, David. You mentioned the metadata form that we send through the Learning Bank with the resource for the assessment. Did you say that was in the Project 83 site?
Yes, I'll hand over to John. Yep.
Yep, that's correct. If you go into the Project 83 site, I think it's folder number 2, which has the development templates in it, and then that's the location. But just give me a quick moment, and I will have a look for you, and I can give you the exact. I'll give you the. You've got it?
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. Thank you.
Yep, not a problem. You're welcome.
So just while you think, if you might have another question, of course, from the learning design, the assessment designer's point of view, we know that this process is not over. It's like from our perspective, our first run at updating the assessment templates to meet your needs. But we realise that will be an ongoing process, and we will have forums and conversations and tools to help as we go through this process. So it's really, from our perspective, from the 27th is the point that we're sort of officially, if you like, launching the assessment templates. Okay, I might stop recording.